But anyway, we're just delighted to have all of you here and appreciate you coming so very much. And I think what we'll do is start off with food, and then we'll get our man up here, and he'll introduce some of you, and he'll have some, we can ask questions, and see where we go from there. Does that sound okay? Good. As you can see, this is really a planned deal. And I want to really thank Maricela. She and her staff have done a fantastic job. And I found out something. When I walked in the door, I said, what in the world is all this orange stuff hanging on everywhere? We've got a hanky. We're matching decks and glasses. Good for you. Anyway, so if you don't mind, we'll start supper and make yourself at home, and if there's something we can do for you, let us know. And after that, we'll have an introduction and kind of a question and answer thing. So thank y'all for being here. Dex, the floor is yours. Great. Thank you so much.
I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I really want to thank the Banking Trust for not just 1 year, but 2 years of support. And thank Maricela for putting all this together. It looks beautiful. This is really good. There's been a lot of hoopla since around the newspaper and the television and the radio, and thank you, Mr. T's, for forcing me in seminary. There's been events and parties, and this one right here is the one that I know Johnny and I have looked most forward to, because this is the first time that we've had our crew all back together since around. And it's just a small gathering of just a good time to share some stories and share some memories and look back on it. And it's just a nice time. I really appreciate it. I want to thank Bill. You know, my mom's got 92 years of wisdom under her belt. And when I was a kid, she used to tell me whenever she would see someone with good character, good morals, and just a good person, she'd say, he's good people. Bill, you are good people.
You don't know me
You know, it's not the easiest thing in the world to get 2 vehicles, 9 people in a river and you get on a bicycle across America in 12 days. It's very difficult, and I couldn't have done it without my crew. There's no way. They were so supportive. And so I want to tell you a little bit about my crew. I had 3 domestiques. One of the domestiques is Elaine. And Elaine was, I really didn't like Elaine that much. She was the one with this SP up 974 sub-10 spray stuff, and she was always coming up to me, here, we need to put this on, we need to put this on. I was raised in Crane, Texas. I didn't wear a shirt till I was 13. And I was out in the sun every day, and here she is trying to spray all this stuff all over my I said, here, princess, come here, princess. My other domestique was Annika. And Annika, I sent you an email and you did not reply. So, here we go. You know, I may have done round in 12 days, but there was another record set round. There was a record set in round that no one has ever touched before. And Annika is the owner of that record. Annika set a goal when she started in Ram. She set a goal and she kept that goal. Do you know what Annika's goal was? Annika's goal was to take a dump at every time station in Ram. Do you know how many time stations there are in Ram? There are 55 time stations. Annika holds the record by taking a dump at every time station in Ram. I had 3 drivers. I'm sure all y'all know Emily, y'all think she's a very intelligent and well-educated lady. So not true. You just don't know Emily. The girl's only got 3 words in her vocabulary. And those 3 words are, you got this, you got this, you got, that's all I heard the whole time she was behind the wheels. You got this. And it didn't make any difference where the situation was or anything. It was, you got this, you got this. And thank you, Emily, because you kept me going down. My other driver, who was another driver? Michael, who? Oh, Michael West. Yeah. Michael, he was our MacGyver around. He became very intimate with Bessie. Because he worked on her, and worked on her, and worked on her. But Michael also played another vital part around. Y'all may not have known this, but I was kind of on the bubble the last 300 miles around. How do you know about some finish at the time or not? And the last 300 miles, we had a little meeting in West Virginia as we was getting ready to go through the Appalachians, and we got our crews together. We decided to 4 people in the crew, and Michael was going to be the driver. And in the last 300 miles and the last 30 hours around, I had 115 in the map. And Michael drove that whole way. Guess how many hours Michael got? We didn't get any of those. But Michael figured something out in around. In that last 30 hours, he told me this later. He said, I've been going down the road, and he would see the bicycle, he would see my head nod, the bicycle swerve, and they say, oh no, he's falling asleep, he's falling asleep, he's falling asleep. And Michael said, no, that's when he was waking up. My other driver was Damaris, and if it hadn't been for Damaris, no one would have been, I don't know who would have been the last person to everything. She was late for everything. If you go up here to the poster and look at the bank going away party, the departure party, Damaris isn't in any of those photos because she wasn't here. She was late. And Damaris was the only one. Without Damaris, and she drove that RV. She drove Bessie until someone else would come out and say, Damaris, there's no gas, it's past the empty sign. And she would drive it and just keep going and going and going. And she was also my driver in my follow vehicle. And she was at a critical stage during the night when we went through the Appalachian Mountains, when we had a really hard time. Okay, that takes care of my drivers and my domestiques. Now we have the navigators. Who was the navigators? There was had 3 different navigators, and they all had 3 different personalities. And I just had to get used to each one of them over and over and over again. They were such a pain. You had Dan here, who was he would be navigating, and he'd say, okay, Dex, we're going to be going for 24 miles before we make a weird right turn into a curve. There'll be a railroad track about 2 miles after that, and then you will not make a turn for another 41 miles. And I will keep you posted when that goes on. In the meantime, did you hear the story about my best friend Rick Fritz, who had 9 lives, and he was once run over by a train and still lived? And he would weave these stories just over and over and over and over. And when he'd get tired of the stories, he'd bring up to Facebook. And Dan, I've always respected Dan. You know, this guy's tough. He's a real bicycle racer. I mean, this guy is like a Tour de France type bicycle racer, and I always thought he was really hardcore and everything. Dan would start reading Facebook to me. I'm the one that's supposed to get choked up. Dan would get choked up reading the Facebook messages to me. My other navigator was Connie. Connie was also my medic. And Connie was like, he'd take over and we'd get going and say, okay, Dex, how do you feel? Let's do a head to toe assessment. Let's start at your head and let's go to your toes and let's see how you feel tonight. Connie had another dubious role that we had a thing where they kept track of my off bicycle time. And Thomas had to do this role of having a stopwatch on me every single second I was off that bicycle. And he stayed on me. I was in Tooke City, Arizona. I had eaten 2 big burritos, drink a Dr. Pepper, and Connie's the same. You've been off the bike 9 minutes next. 9 minutes. You've been off the bicycle for 9 minutes now. And he was always on me like that. Anyway, who's my other my other navigator show. And see, we had Connie, who's the assessor, Dan, who's the story weaver, and then we had Joe. And Joe's my brother, and he did this last year. He's kind of bored with the whole thing. And when Joe's navigator, he's like, he sits there, and he doesn't really get the microphone because Emily's always taking away from him because she's driving with him. So Emily takes it over, and she always hogs the thing. So Joe's sitting there, and we'll be going along forever and ever and ever. And I'm going, am I going the right way? And all of a sudden, it's like, come right here. So I had 3 different types of navigators. And I think that's everyone except my crew chief. And my crew chief is Johnny, my wife. Did y'all know there's another name for crew chief in Brown? It's called dominatrix. I don't know where she got that whip. But she put crime scene tape around the RV around Esty so I couldn't get in. She blocked the door. Anytime I stopped and tried to go to the RV, she'd stand in front of the door and wouldn't let me in. She made me sleep in the follow vehicle. She wouldn't let me go to the RV. We had a little 10-inch wide piece of foam on top of a rack that Mr. Tooke built for us. And I would have to crawl in this little bitty space. Literally that tall. She had to take my helmet off and my shoes, and that's all. And I would have to crawl head first back to the back of that little piece of foam rubber. And by the time I got back there, I was asleep. And she would let me sleep sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes an hour. If y'all haven't seen the charts up there, and this is a question most people ask is how much did you sleep? In the 12 days, I averaged 1.8 hours a day of sleep. That's what it came out to. So anyway, that's my crew. And I want them now to come up here and show a little bit of part of around with y'all, and I want to encourage y'all to ask them some questions because it's interesting what they have to say. Maybe some of you, while you were here at Del Rio and you were following around and you were following on the internet and a little GPS tracker on Facebook, maybe some of you may have wondered what it would be like to be on the crew. Maybe you imagined what it might be like to go through sleep deprivation, what it might be like to go through exhaustion and fatigue. And let me tell you, you can't imagine. You cannot imagine. You do not know. We used to have, before around, we had a lot of practice drives. We had team meetings about every 2 weeks or so at the house. And my crew would come out, of course this was before around, and they would come out, we'd have these meetings, and they were so enthusiastic. They didn't know this, don't do this, they didn't know this, don't do that. And they just brought so much to the table. all joking aside, this is the truth right now. Every one of these crew members you see right now, when they're thinking about Ram right now, their stomachs going to the rock. They're tensing up. They're remembering what it's like to be in the trenches, because that's what it is, you're in the trenches. And every one of them have been there, and they know what it's like now. And their stomachs are tightening right now. So anyway, I didn't prepare this, but I want to bring each of the crew members up and let them say something. And I want to encourage you all to ask questions. And Annika, won't you just come on up? Annika was my daughter's seat, and she was supposed to cook food for me, but Annika doesn't cook much. So she did heat up a cheese sandwich once. She did do that.
She was fed. Okay, I was domestic. I came in through Johnny, so I didn't know Dex last year, so I just was recruited through Johnny and ended up going on a 12-week trip taking care of Dex. To sum up Ram, I'm not from Del Rio, so when I got home, I went back to San Antonio, and my mom asked me, how everything went, and she's been following along. She said, well, now that you did Ram, you're officially an adult. I'm 27. I went to college. I lived all over the state on my own, but not until I did Ram was I an adult. I don't know if anyone has a question for me, but I'm supposed to introduce Emily Cooper.
I've known Dex for probably 40 years. He was my spin instructor at the gym, so I knew him and he's always been a great motivator, so that is kind of what, and I was, the stalker last year when he was on ramp, so I kind of felt like I really needed to go this year, but I was really privileged when he asked me to go. I would say the biggest thing I learned from Ram is that we all have so much potential that we don't use. Because when you see someone do what he's done, and put his body through the things that he does, it just makes you realize that there's so much more that we could all be doing. And I think that's the biggest thing I took from it, so I thank you for showing me that. I think it's a great example. I think it was a great example for my children to be able to follow that, so I'm very proud to be able to be a part of that. And I think we just made some great friendships. And for me, the friendships and the life lessons are what I learned from Ram. But it was a great experience. Everyone asked, was it fun? I wouldn't say fun is the right word. An adventure. It was definitely an adventure. And I'm very glad I did it. But I don't think I would describe it with fun. There was moments of enlightenment, but most of the time it was an adventure. And it was a great experience. So thank you for letting me be part of it. I appreciate it. And Elaine?
Emily's a hard act to follow. I'll use my big voice. I used to see Dex in town at the Art Walk and around town because he works for a friend of mine, and mostly what I noticed about Dex was his shoes. You know the ones with the toes? Yeah, I thought, what a weirdo. But anyway, I didn't. Emily, she looks at Dex as inspiration, and I'm still thinking, man, what an idiot. It definitely took a special person to do what Dex did, and I think it took a lot of special people to do what we did. And it was an adventure. It was a good adventure. And a lot of my friends say, would you do it again? And I always say, yeah, with a younger, faster band. Not the working part of it, but I think we probably saw it a lot different than Dex did, which was probably a good thing. Okay, Damaris?
Well, after listening to the name, you have some idea of the laughter. I just remember, I mean, these are people I've never spent any time with. I would see Emily in spin class, that's how I knew Dex, and yet we laughed a lot. You have to. Dex didn't know this, but him talking about the sleep deprivation. I'm a morning person, daytime person. I don't think anyone was more happy to see the dawn come than I was, because those nights were long. And Dan was my navigator. And Dan and his storytelling kept, Dex going. But sometimes it would put me to sleep. I kid you not. And then when you were having, Archer was coming up and I saw it was a night shift, I said, I'm gonna have to take my iPod with me. I need something to keep me awake. I was okay, the sunflower seeds help, but after a while, nothing would help. And music motivates me, and Dex knows that. So, Dex, you may not have known that, sometimes I was listening to my iPod. I was following you. I have my music, and the ladies every once in a while would ask me, what are you listening to? And I thought, oh yeah, this is a good song, okay. I just kept going and just waiting for the sun to come out. Some of those nights were long. And I know we did practice, but when you're actually in it and you're on roads you've never been on and states you've never been to, you're not familiar. Because we always practice here, this is familiar. I get scared sometimes, just knowing that I had to keep an eye on him and other drivers, because not every place is very friendly. So, I mean, it was an experience. I don't know if I could do it again, because what I feel for Dex, you just can't feel for anyone. So you just, I don't know, I couldn't just pick it up. But it was an adventure, and I am so glad I did it. It was the best way really to see America. If you get an opportunity, that first 1,000 miles. And I know you see there was pictures of Utah, but we were the crew with Dex during the whole time. And that Monument Valley is just incredible. Those pictures don't even come close. That's it. Oh, my goodness.
Well, I work with Dex, so I get a unique perspective of him. And I also get all the news before everyone else does. So I knew that he was going to ask me to come up here, so I didn't kind of say anything at all. It is, for each one of us, it's a unique experience. And along the way, I think what came to me was, this is not about Dex, this is about us. I created a relationship with someone that I didn't know. I would see Connus every day, dropping my kid off at St. James. And we waved to each other. We didn't even know who we were. We were just like, hey, you're another St. James parent. And we got on the ram, and from day one, we got into Bessie, and he and I just worked so hard together. And we just created this relationship that we created. A friendship was it was awesome, and it's something that I personally have never experienced before. So it was really neat for me. But it wasn't just him, it was everybody on the team. Emily, now every time I see Emily, I get a hug. That is cool. So it's different for everybody, but it's a really awesome experience, and I loved seeing the country the way we saw it. And that's one of the things that I want to do. I don't want to ride a bicycle across it. But I do want to drive. We never hit an interstate. We were always on a back road. And it was, when you drive anywhere, your goal is to get where you want to go. You hit the interstate and you get there. And the way we went, we were on a back road in, I don't even know where it was. It was someplace in the middle of the country. And we were out in the middle of nowhere, and all of a sudden this trailer park popped up. And they had a pool. It was fancy. It was out in the middle of nowhere. You would never see that going on the interstate. And it was just really neat. And it's something that I would like to take my kids and my wife and my family and just drive down the road and see the country the way that, in the places that we went. So I'm glad to have a copy of the route book so that I can do it someday. And Dex he's really an inspiration to me. I went through his ran with him last year, and he wanted me there last year, and I couldn't be there last year, but when the opportunity came up this year, my wife said, well, you better go, because you didn't go last year. So I said, okay. And I don't think she knew what she was getting herself into. But we made it through, all of us made it through. And it was really something. And I have to thank Dex for the experience, for what I learned, and for the new friendships that we all have, and hope that they don't fade away into the darkness as most friendships do when you're not hanging around with the same people all the time. And you know, some of the guys who even live here in Del Rio, so it was really cool. And you know, and thank you all for coming out tonight and listening to me babble and just listening to our story. And if you have any questions, you know, that's what we're here for. I was talking to some folks earlier and telling them how nuts things were on the trip and how ridiculous it got. My friend Cindy Peel, she's my confidant at work, has a question for me.
I wanted to do the script writing was. Y'all haven't mentioned the script.
There was no script.
Well, the non-script. Where did that come from? The movie shows that. Tell everybody. Not everybody. Probably say
How about the movie?
Oh, the movie. Yeah. I was not part of that deal. I was not driving during that craziness. Emily was. And yeah, I was let know about how all that went. I don't know all the details. She knows more about that. You want to come up and answer the question?
Okay, this happened one night when everyone was very tired. Dex had slept for like a 15-minute nap and gotten back up and gotten on his bike and went about 2 feet over. And we're like, oh, he's got to go back down again. He's not ready. So we put him down again, and then we started, and he slept for 2 hours that time. And then off we went, so we're doing everything we could to keep him awake because he was so tired. We were in Illinois. We just crossed over the Missouri River, and we were in Illinois. And so, I don't know, Joe handed me the headset. Joe would run out of things to say, and he would hand me the headset. I wouldn't take it away from him. Joe would be like, here, I don't have anything else to say. So I would start talking. So I said, you know what? Someone ought to write a movie about this. There ought to be a movie about this. And so it kind of took off from there. So then that's when we started assigning roles to who would play who. And, you know, Joe was going to be Matthew McConaughey. And Dex was played by, what's his name? No. Anyway, I was going to be Jennifer Lopez, of course. And I thought Jennifer Lopez and Matthew McConaughey should have some sort of little thing going along the trip. So it just took off from there and digressed completely. But that's kind of what we started. And it kept him laughing and kept us going. And we were doing anything we could to keep him awake. That's what it was. So. Who's next?
The next person that's coming up here is my right hand and my left hand when we were on this trip. We were also together. That
There they are. Look at the picture.
Yeah, there you go.
I was trying to think what I'm going to talk about after listening to everyone else. The biggest question I have gotten since I've been back is, so you're the person that took care of Dex. No, Dex took care of himself. We go from head to toe system check. I didn't even remember that. I'm so tired. That was just to pass time, actually. Dex had, once we got on the bike, once we got out of California, once we got on the bike and got out of California, Dex is a machine. There is no doubt about that. He would just pedal. And yes, periodically he would take a nap on the bike and fall over sometimes. But he always got back up. So as far as if I was the person that kept Dex going, no, Dex did that. As a navigator, yeah, you were trying to pass that headset off periodically because you just run out of things to think about and talk about. And Dex is a little picky about what you talk about, too. Real picky, actually. Real picky. If he doesn't like it, he kind of cuts you off. Actually, we talked about that. But Michael was great. Yeah, we really worked. We worked well. Annika had to put up with us, and She was about to go crazy about the first 5 days, the last 6 days or so, she did go crazy about it. It was a tough trip, and adventure is the best way to put it. There's definitely great times, and it really is dependent on how the ride is going. If Dex is riding really well at that time, you were on a high. I mean, you just feel like you've been at a party and you've had a great time. Dex is on the low, whole team slow it, but you have to try to figure out a way to pick him back up. And we were able to do that. And so it was a wonderful experience. Would not pass up. The navigators, if you look back through the books and you look at the different things we wrote in there, some really interesting things that we got to see. I got a copy of it because, just like Michael, I want to take my children and my wife and see the country a little faster. And actually stay maybe at some place other than a parking lot.
Generator running.
We just on a bank parking lot one day.
Then we Michael actually
We actually on the paper.
there was actually 3 different nights I slept on the pavement on the parking lot. But Michael was really a MacGyver in that parking lot. So we made about a trip to Walmart that night. So it was not much sleep. That was the other side of it. We didn't sleep much either. Some people were very good at sleeping. Emily and I were very lousy at it, actually. Dan was very good at it. Hey, there's something to be said about that. Anyway, that's about all I have to say. If anybody has any questions, let me have an answer. Otherwise,
Did you ever make any wrong turns?
Michael and I, we were turning way too early at some point, and poor Dex made about 4, 180s, 90s, 60s. It went on for a while. We were a couple miles short of our turnoff, but no, we made no wrong turns because we were at the McDonald's that was on the corner. Just a long corner, 2 miles short. But that's okay. I remember we were on some little road and we're like, wow, they've made up. This was when they were on their last 30-hour track. We were trying to catch up with them and we're going along and we're like going, wow, they're doing great. We're on this little road. We're all calculating, oh, Dex is doing 15 miles an hour. This is after that. But, oh, he's at 18 miles. We're going along. We're at 22 miles an hour. I think you made a wrong turn. We pull over and we all get out of the RV and sit on top of it and wait for them to finally catch up with us. They go by about 30 minutes later at about 12 miles an hour. Anything else? Dan, I think I'm supposed to.
Man, I'm trying to think of, there's so many elements to this thing. I guess to start with, Dex and I go back pretty far. 1991, when I was stationed out here at Del Rio, I found that there were actually other people around here who rode bikes. Dex was one of them, so that's kind of where our friendship started. So I come from a background of about 25 years of competitive cycling. I mean, what I thought, anyway, it was hard stuff. But this ultra stuff, this race across America, is something completely different. This was, for me, a revelation to learn about this race and to actually see Dex do it. This is a whole different breed of person that does this kind of competitive cycling. To me, I would never touch it with a 10-foot pole. I'll go out and race fast for an hour, I'm done. Take a shower, go home, and sit there with the remote. Dex goes forever and ever and ever, and it is unbelievable to see. And that's why I'm starting to get choked up. I don't know if I really want to go back to Ram and see that, because you see people go through suffering that is really mind-blowing. And those guys in the Tour de France, yeah, they suffer, but they only suffer for 6 hours a day. And then it's over and they go to the hotel and take a shower. And for Dex, it goes on all day. You heard him, almost 1.9 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. That to me is completely unbelievable. Let's see. There are so many elements to them. There are all of you folks out there back here in Del Rio with the radio and with the support and looking for funding. This thing costs a lot of money to put this thing together. An RV, a follow vehicle, all the bicycle equipment, the food. I mean, it's a huge logistical undertaking, you know, and so all the people at Del Rio were behind us. There's that element. There's the RAM, the Race Across America organization that puts together that route. They have to go through America and look at every little stop sign and turn and annotate it in that book. And it has to be accurate, down to the 10th of a mile. And all the rules and officials and follow vehicles that they have out there I mean, that's a huge organization there. And then you've got to put together a crew, and it's got to be big enough so people can get some sleep. You can't have a 3-person crew. You've got to have shifts so people can get some sleep. And the rider's going to go without sleep. Somebody's got to sleep on this thing, and so somebody's sane. So it's just amazing, all these different things coming together. Some things that really struck me, one, in RAM, expect the unexpected. We actually started a law of crap that went on that was just unbelievable. The generator doesn't work. The door doesn't shut now. Oh no, Dex has to take a shit in the RV 10 miles back and he won't do it at the RV, you know. Oh no, Dex is, I don't know if you knew this, but for the first couple of days, Dex was sick. He actually had a stomach bug. And so he started out behind the power curve. And so for day one, we were wondering if this was going to come off at all. And that may have set you back and kept you weak and slower than maybe you might have been last year, you know. That started off on the wrong foot. So they're expect the unexpected. The other really cool thing about RAM is, and I think Emily mentioned this too, the crew getting together. We didn't know each other before. The first time we were all together was RAM. And it worked. The group dynamics in our team were awesome. I don't remember, I mean, there might have been some brief, short tempers every now and then, but I can't remember them now.
Never stabbing.
Yeah, there was never stabbing. Yeah, that's never stabbing. And my theory is that 5 of us have come from a teaching background. Yeah, so we know how to deal with conflict and kind of, you know, soften it up and make sure that people are six people.
You didn't know that, Joe.
Oh, okay. Teaching background. So I guess we're going to put together a RAM crew, look for teachers, you know, because it would be really easy to be at each other's throats because it's a very high priority. Yeah. So it takes a lot of elements to come together to have this be a successful thing. And it terminated with Dex rolling in, what, an hour and a half from the car? Hour and 15 minutes. And I told somebody I was talking to here that probably believe it or not, anybody in this room, if you put your mind to it, you could ride across America. You could do it. It might take you 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. You could do it. Try doing it in 12 days. And if you don't keep up with the time limit, you're out. You're out of the race. That's why Dex only got 1.9 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period throughout the whole thing. So it's really an amazing deal. What was I going with that? That's what we're trying to talk about. But anyway, I don't know. Entertaining questions?
Tell us the Rick Fritz story.
Rick Fritz story. Well, this is a high school buddy of mine. He's almost died in a hang glider, a rattlesnake bite, getting wiped off his bike with a billboard he tried to ride under. I mean, so that's how I kept Dex entertained, is telling him near-death stories. Oh, I was with him when he fell 80 feet off Camelback River rock climbing with ropes and everything. And had Keaton, if it had fallen, if it had told, I would be dead. I would have been dead. I would have been. So those are all the kinds of stories that I would tell Dex at 3 o'clock in the morning to keep him awake, and I apparently put Damaris to sleep. So, anyway, yeah, you have a question in the back row?
Did you ever get lost?
sing. What do they say? I get the pleasure introducing the person, man, I don't know if you know how much work she put into this stuff. And she's what, an artist, a carpenter, electrician, mechanic, organizer, dominatrix. Everything all rolled into one, and she did a great job to keep us all together, and she deserves almost as much credit as Dex for doing this whole thing, if not more. Maybe. I don't know. Johnny, why don't you come up and tell yourself?
Last year when we got to the end of RAM and we had to stop because we weren't going to make it, I was the one going, no, we got to keep going. We go until the clock runs out. And Dexter says, maybe it's over. I won't be able to finish. So I'm not going to disrespect RAM and expect them to stick around and us keep going just to complete this. No, I'm not going to do it. We did our best. And the minute we stopped, I was like, okay, but I don't like it. And I started thinking, we're going to have to come back. And he couldn't even think about that at that point, but I knew we're going to have to come back. We've got to come do this again. There's something about RAM that got into our blood. It got into mine just as much as it got into his. And the fact that he didn't complete it last year, we were forced kind of to do it again because we had to get, it's like this little ugly monkey sitting on our back, and we had to knock him off. So we had to go back and try again. Well, I believe the thing about RAM is it's very seldom that a crew and a rider that are rookies really completed the first year. It took last year's crew to go try it. I had to go through this once to know what to do. And when we came home, I was already thinking about what needed to be done. Watching him, talking with him, seeing how it's going to be done. Sometimes I wonder, did I push him into it, or did he decide to do it? When he decided, yes, I think I've got to go back, and I said, I know you do, I know I do. And I said, but now we got to find a crew. So then I just started doing what I could, and fortunately we put the word out and grabbed some people that were very passionate about it last year. And that's the word that kind of describes this bunch, is they were passionate. And we were blessed. We were blessed. I was able to work with all of these people that were willing to go on training rides ahead of time. Did we even think about that last year? No. So we were better prepared going into it, and I think that made a difference. The dominatrix thing, yeah, sorry. I told him, I said, if we're going to do this, I'm going to be preaching. Because I know you, and I know what needs to be done, and I'm going to be doing all of this planning. And he's right. I started planning RAM 2 years ago, and just fine-tuned it and did it. I tried to do it better this last time. And both of us worked hard. And we got our act together, and we organized, and we planned, and we trained, and we did everything we could because we were determined to get the job done, because I had confidence that that man could pedal across this country into our place. I believed it. I saw him do it last year, and I just knew that we just had to work it better. And yes, when he was sick, and he came to me and he said, what are we going to do? He said, I don't know if I can ride. And I said, honey, you get on your bike and you just go. And if you're lucky, maybe it's just a 24-hour bug. But you just pedal and just do the best you can. And if we have to push you harder, that's what we'll do. And a lot of people say, how on earth were you able to be tough with your husband? When you would see him suffering. And I said, but this was his dream. And that was my job, to support him and to get him to the finish line. And I think I'm going to design a t-shirt that says, we survived RAM and we're still married. and try to sell that maybe. And because most of the time when you go to RAM planning meetings, they say, do not take family, because family bubble. And I was determined not to buckle. I was determined to help him do what he wanted to do. Okay? And it was a privilege. And it was an awesome experience for me. There was some laughter, and I was tense. I was wound tight in the top the whole time. Dan told me, he said, boy, I didn't know you could be so relaxed. And I said, this is relaxed? I said, this is the end of the first week of school, and you think this is relaxed? He said, yeah, this is relaxed in comparison. So, yeah, it was stressful. There was a lot of work that had to be done. But we were so blessed with an awesome crew, and I really believe that they are the ones that made the difference, because he just needed somebody to support him and be there along the way, because he could do it. And we found that out, that he could do it. Are there any questions anybody has for me?
Did you ever think about divorce?
Well, after 39 years, I don't think so. We've got too much of an investment here, but if he were to come to me and say, I want to do Ram again, I'm going to have to say, I think we need to rethink this, honey. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Out of everything that you saw, out of everything that you experienced, is there one memory that you would take to heart and say, this was the best moment of this whole
Yeah. Yes, there was. And I'll probably cry on you on this one. But it was when we crossed that line. And my brother-in-law started playing that song. It was like our inspirational song. And all I could think was, I am so proud of this man. He finished this. He did it. He cut it close. He was a little bit of a drama queen. But when you look at what he overcame, the illness, the 115-degree temperatures in Arizona, the climbing the mountains, passes, the descents, when you think about all of those things that he overcame, he still made it. And he had said all along, if I get there 1 minute before the cutoff, then I make it. And so that was our goal. So an hour and 15 minutes, I think that's great. I think that's great. But yeah, that moment that we were at that roadhouse and the line was there and we passed that line, that was a moment that all of a sudden this load lifted off of me. Quite frankly, I felt relieved and I felt blessed and I felt proud. All together, and it was like it's worth it all. If this was hard, it was just worth it all. And I'm going to introduce Joe. Joe is Dexter's brother. He went with us last year, and he still talks to us.
I met Dex about 2 weeks before. But I guess, Ram, for me, if I could pick out two beacons of light, special memories that will always remain luminous in my mind, those two would be, one is a very, very bad one. In a matter of just a few seconds, going through horrible fear, going through horror, going through absolute rage, seeing a full-size Blazer, full throttle, headed at your brother when he's helpless and you're helpless to do anything about it. That was a tough moment. We switched out crews shortly after that, and I had to go take a long walk and kind of walk that one off. That was a tough one. So that was my low point of Ram. As for my point, kind of getting back to your question, the finish line was high, but there was another moment in Ram for me that was, I think, more special. Dex and I kind of talked about the finish line after the race was over. Imagine this, we're coming into Baltimore, Maryland on Monday morning. Annapolis is kind of a suburb of Baltimore. Everybody's going to work. And from about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning until we cross that finish line, we are dodging, fighting the traffic like you cannot believe. Me and Michael's driving and I'm navigating, and we're both looking left and right saying, Dex, merging on your right, Dex, people exiting over here. And he's having to look, and I mean, it was intense for many hours getting to that finish line. And by the time we got to the finish line, I mean, that last half mile there was a lot of exhilaration and so forth, but before that, getting to the finish line was like, wow, I'm actually, this is over. Because it was insane, it really was. But for me, I guess my best memory of Brown happened about, I don't know the exact time, maybe 10 hours before we got to the finish line. The scenario is, there was 4 of us in the follow vehicle, and we were going to be the crew that followed Dexter into the finish line for about the last 30 hours, 24 to 30 hours we were following him in. And we were charting. We had a chart where we measured every hour. At the end of each hour, we would chart how many miles he accomplished during that hour. We would subtract that from the miles left that he had to go, and then we would calculate what kind of average miles per hour he needs to maintain in order to get there before the cutoff time. So we're charting this every hour. You know, okay, now he has to do these miles an hour in order to finish, and these miles an hour. And Sunday night, we finished Monday morning. Sunday night, as it's getting closer to midnight, Dex's average miles per hour are dropping. They're coming down, and that's not a good thing. And we're getting in the danger zone. We really are. We're looking at it going, wow, if this continues, we're in serious trouble. We may not finish around. And at that point, I mean, you kind of have to take inventory of the situation. I mean, the man's ridden 2,900 miles. Everything in his crotch area is raw. His hands no longer function. He cannot change his gears. His feet are basically numb. His knees are hurting. I mean, his whole body is screaming in pain basically at this point. And his biggest nemesis, his biggest physical problem at this point in the race is sleep deprivation. If any of you ever been driving down the road after a big meal, and or sitting in a meeting after a big meal, and you sit there and you're nodding and you cannot keep your eyes open, magnify that by 12 days of no sleep. Magnify that by 2,500 miles on a bicycle. It's hard to imagine. And that's what he was fighting at this point. That's why his speed was coming down between the fatigue and the sleep deprivation. It didn't look good. And I'm a navigator at this point. I've got the headset on, I've got the mic, and I'm talking to him. And I'm analyzing the situation and going, wow. I was there last year when we pulled out at 2,810 miles. And I remember the pain of that. I remember the pain of going to the finish line, driving to the finish line, walking up to the finish line and seeing that banner and not seeing him cross it. That was very painful. And I remember the night before we left the race this year, the night before we started, we had a team meeting in the hotel room. And Dex poured out his heart to us about how painful that was last year, about how, you know, that could not happen again. And so all of this is right there, and you know, it's not looking good. And normally I'm a pretty mellow guy, pretty quiet, reserved, don't say a lot of things and don't speak very much. But I started getting kind of real direct and firm with Dex. And I started pushing, and I started trying to get him to go faster. Dex, you got to wake up. And really started talking to him real hard. And there was something I said, I don't remember, maybe 10 hours left in the race. When I said, Dex, I said, when you get back to Del Rio and you're standing in front of the Lions Club and you're standing in front of the Rotary Club at Del Rio, Texas, how's your speech going to end, Dex? Are you going to tell them you did not finish REM? I said, you're writing that speech right now. You're writing the final chapter of that speech. How's that speech going to end? What's it going to say, Dex? I told him, I said, I want you to show me with your pedals, with your body, how that speech is going to end right now. And what I saw I still get chill bumps because the man took off. It was, whoa. He took off. And we were like, oh my gosh. And I just kept pushing him and driving him, pushing him and driving him. And he kept riding and riding, and those miles per hour started going up, 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 up. And what that meant to me now, I look at my life and I say, wow, Joe, you have an opportunity to write the final chapter of your life. What's your life going to say, Joe? And all of us need to be thinking about that. I have the opportunity every day to put another page in the book. And I have the opportunity and the ability to do what he did, to rise up and make that story more interesting, more meaningful, more inspiring, more exciting. He wrote his story, and what I saw him do that night inspired me to think about my story and my book, my speech, and what I need to say about my life. Thank you. If I can have all three come up, there's something I want to say to you guys. And I don't think we need this microphone.
I need to know something. Is there any more unfinished business? No! What are we going to say to all these people? Thank you! Next, if you would agree with you, hell no! Just for everybody's information, we had to have several of those along the way to get going. You remember?
That picture is going to go on the wall in the bank. It tells a lot about your integrity and your fortitude and just how tough an old wrestler you are. And I really appreciate the opportunity to listen to you guys, you both tonight, guys and gals, tell us what really is important about life. And I can't thank you enough for being here. So, anybody have any other questions or thoughts or ideas? No more questions? We're going to get the picture on the wall. Okay? Thank you so much. And thank y'all all for being here. And Maricela, thank you again wherever you went. You did a great job. So thank y'all.